73. Villages, towns and trade. Iron tools in agriculture. We often take the use of iron for granted today. Things made of iron and steel are a part of our daily lives. The use of iron began in the subcontinent around 3000 years ago. Some of the largest collections of iron tools and weapons were found in the megalithic burials, about which you read in Chapter 4. Around 2500 years ago, there is evidence for the growing use of iron tools. These included axes for clearing forests and the iron plowshare. As we had seen, Chapter 5, the plowshare was useful for increasing agricultural production. Other steps to increase production, irrigation. The kings and kingdoms you have been reading about could not have existed without the support of fluid nourishing villagers. While new tools in the system of transplantation, Chapter 5, increased production, irrigation was also used. Irrigation works that were built during this time included canals, wells, tanks, and artificial lakes. Chapter 8. Villages, towns and trade. Prabhakar at the blacksmith shop. Prabhakar sat watching the smiths at the local shop. There was a small bench on which iron tools like axes and sickles were laid out, ready for sale. A bright fire was burning, and two men were heating and beating metal rods into shape. It was very hot and noisy, and yet it was fascinating to watch what was happening. Iron tools. Here is a set of captions. Choose the right one for each of the pictures. Sickle, tongs, axe. Prepare a list of at least 5 objects made of iron or steel that you use almost every day. Chapter 7 to 8, in 73. The 22nd of April 2022, 2 hours 36 minutes and 34 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. Rationalized 2023-24, 74. Our PASTS I. Who lived in the villages. There were at least 3 different kinds of people living in most villages in the southern and northern parts of the subcontinent. In the Tamil region, large landowners were known as Vellalar, ordinary plowmen were known as Uzavar, and landless laborers, including slaves, were known as Kadaisiyar and Adimai. 1. Kings need money for armies, palaces, forts. 2. They demand taxes from farmers. 4. This is possible with irrigation. 6. 7. Production increases. 3. 5. 8. So does revenue. 9. If you look at the chart, you will find that some of the stages in the construction of irrigation works are mentioned. Fill in the rest by using the following phrases. Labor is provided by the people. Farmers also benefit because crop production is more certain. Farmers have to increase production to pay taxes. Kings provide money and plan irrigation works. Chapter 7 to 8, in 74. The 22nd of April 2022, 2 hours 36 minutes and 34 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. 75. Villages, towns and trade. In the northern part of the country, the village headman was known as the Grama Bojak. Usually, men from the same family held the position for generations. In other words, the post was hereditary. The Grama Bojak was often the largest landowner. Generally, he had slaves and hired workers to cultivate the land. Besides, as he was powerful, the king often used him to collect taxes from the village. He also functioned as a judge, and sometimes as a policeman. Apart from the Grama Bojak, there were other independent farmers, known as Grihapatis, most of whom were smaller landowners. And then there were men and women such as the Dasa Karmakara, who did not own land, and had to earn a living working on the 5 elves owned by others. In most villages there were also some craftspersons such as the blacksmith, potter, carpenter and weaver. Coins. Archaeologists have found several thousands of coins belonging to this period. The earliest coins which were in use for about 500 years were punch-marked coins, such as the one shown here. The earliest Tamil compositions, some of the earliest works in Tamil, known as Sangam literature, were composed around 2300 years ago. These texts were called Sangam because they were supposed to have been composed and compiled in assemblies, known as Sangams, of poets that were held in the city of Madurai, see map 7, page 87. The Tamil terms mentioned above are found in Sangam literature. Chapter 7 to 8, in 75. The 25th of April 2022. 2 hours 28 minutes and 35 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. Rationalized 2023-24, 76. Our PASTS I. Cities with many functions. Very often, a single town was important for a variety of reasons. Let us look at the example of Mathura, map 7, page 87. Mathura has been an important settlement for more than 2500 years. It was important because it was located at the crossroads of 2 major routes of travel and trade, from the northwest to the east and from north to south. There were fortified cairns around the city, and several shrines. Farmers and herders from adjoining areas provided food for. Punch-marked coins were generally rectangular or sometimes square or round in shape, either cut out of metal sheets or made out of fluid attend metal globules, a small spherical body. The coins were not inscribed, but were stamped with symbols using dies or punches. Hence, they are called punch-marked coins. These coins are found over most parts of the subcontinent and remained in circulation till the early century CE. Other means of exchange read this short poem from the Sangam collection. As they carry the white paddy of their land, to exchange it for the salt of another, crossing the long roads in carts, through sands white as moonlight, taking whole families, who hate to be left behind. The departure of the salt merchants leaves the city empty. Salt was produced plentifully along the sea coast. What are the merchants planning to exchange it with? How are they traveling? Chapter 7 to 8, in 76. The 22nd of April 2022, 2 hours 36 minutes and 35 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. 77. Villages, towns and trade. People in the city. Mathura was also a center where some extremely fine sculpture was produced. Around 2000 years ago, Mathura became the second capital of the Kushanas, about whom you would read. Mathura was also a religious center. There were Buddhist monasteries, Jaina shrines, and it was an important center for the worship of Krishna. Several inscriptions on surfaces such as stone slabs and statues have been found in Mathura. Generally, these are short inscriptions, recording gifts made by men, and sometimes women, to monasteries and shrines. These were made by kings and queens, officers, merchants, and craftspersons who lived in the city. For instance, inscriptions from Mathura mention goldsmiths, blacksmiths, weavers, basket makers, garland makers, perfumers. Make a list of the occupations of people who lived in Mathura. List one occupation that was not practiced in Harappan cities. Crafts and craftspersons. We also have archaeological evidence for crafts. These include extremely fine pottery, known as the northern black polished ware, NBPW. It gets its name from the fact that it is generally found in the northern part of the subcontinent. Remember that the archaeological evidence for many crafts may not have survived. We know from texts that the manufacture of cloth was important. There were famous centers such as Varanasi in the north and Madurai in the south. Both men and women worked in these centers. Northern black polished ware, NBPW. NBPW is a hard, wheel-made, metallic-looking ware with a shiny black surface. The potter used to expose the earthenware to very high temperature in his kiln, which resulted in the blackening of its outer surface. A fine black slip was also applied on this, which gave the pottery a mirror-like shine. Chapter 7 to 8, in 77. The 22nd of April 2022 2 hours 36 minutes and 35 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. Rationalized 2023-24 78. Our PASTS I. Many craftspersons and merchants now formed associations known as Shrenis. These Shrenis of craftspersons provided training, procured raw material, and distributed the finished product. Then Shrenis of merchants organized the trade. Shrenis also served as banks, where rich men and women deposited money. This was invested, and part of the interest was returned or used to support religious institutions such as monasteries. A closer look, Arikamedu. Find Arikamedu in Puducherry on map 7, page 87. Between 2200 and 1900 years ago, Arikamedu was a coastal settlement where ships unloaded goods from distant lands. A massive brick structure, which may have been a warehouse. Rules for spinning and weaving. These rules are from the Arthashastra, mentioned in chapter 7. They describe how spinning and weaving could be done in workshops under the supervision of a special official. Widows, young women who are differently abled, nuns, mothers of courtesans, retired women servants of the king, women who have retired from service in temples, may be used for processing wool, bark, cotton, hemp and flax. They should be paid according to the quality and quantity of work. Women who are not permitted to leave their homes can send maid servants to bring the raw material from the superintendent and take the finished work back to him. Women who can visit the workshop should go at dawn to give their work and receive their wages. There should be enough light to examine the work. In case the superintendent looks at the woman or talks about anything other than the work, he should be punished. If a woman does not complete her work, she will have to pay a fine, and her thumbs can be cut off. Make a list of all the women who could be employed by the superintendent. Do you think women would have faced any problems while working? Chapter 7 to 8 in 78. The 22nd of April 2022 2 hours 36 minutes and 35 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. 79. Villages, towns and trade. Was found at the site. Other 5 NDS include pottery from the Mediterranean region, such as amphorae, tall double-handled jars that contain liquids such as wine or oil, and stamped red glazed pottery, known as Aretine ware, which was named after a city in Italy. This was made by pressing wet clay into a stamped mold. There was yet another kind of pottery which was made locally, though Roman designs were used. Roman lamps, glassware and gems have also been found at the site. Small tanks have been found that were probably dyeing vats, used to dye cloth. There is plenty of evidence for the making of beads from semi-precious stones and glass. List the evidence that indicates that there was contact with Rome. Tamil Brahmi inscriptions. Several pieces of pottery have inscriptions in Brahmi, which was used to write Tamil. An account by a Greek sailor, the story of Barigaza, the Greek name for Bharuch. The gulf is very narrow at Barigaza, and very hard to navigate for those coming from the sea. Ships had to be steered in by skillful and experienced local fishermen who were employed by the king. The imports into Barigaza were wine, copper, tin, lead, coral, topaz, cloth, gold and silver coins. Exports from the town included plants from the Himalayas, ivory, agate, carnelian, cotton, silk and perfumes. Special gifts were brought by merchants for the king. These included vessels of silver, singing boys, beautiful women, fine wines and fine cloth. Make a list of all the things imported and exported from Barigaza. Underline at least 2 things that were not in use during Harappan times. Why do you think merchants brought gifts for the king? Chapter 7 to 8 in 79. The 22nd of April 2022 2 hours 36 minutes and 35 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. Rationalized 2023-24 80. Our PASTS I. Trade and traders. You have read about the northern black polished ware. This fine pottery, especially bowls and plates, were found from several archaeological sites throughout the subcontinent. How do you think it reached these places? Traders may have carried them from the places where they were made to sell them at other places. South India was famous for gold, spices, especially pepper, and precious stones. Pepper was particularly valued in the Roman Empire, so much so that it was known as black gold. So, traders carried many of these goods to Rome in ships, across the sea, and by land in caravans. There must have been quite a lot of trade as many Roman gold coins have been found in South India. Can you think of how and why these reached India? A poem about trade. We can find ND evidence of trade in the Sangam poems. Here is one which describes the goods brought into Puhar, an important port on the east coast. Here are brought swift, prancing horses by sea in ships, bales of black pepper in carts, gems and gold born in the Himalayas, sandalwood born in the western hills, the pearls of the southern seas, and corals from the eastern oceans, the yield of the Ganga and the crops from The, Kaveri, foodstuffs from Sri Lanka, pottery from Myanmar, and other rare and rich imports. Make a list of all the things that are mentioned. What would they be used for? Chapter 7 to 8 in 80. The 22nd of April 2022 2 hours 36 minutes and 35 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. 81. Villages, towns and trade. Traders explored several sea routes. Some of these followed the coasts. There were others across the Arabian Sea and the Bay of Bengal, where sailors took advantage of the monsoon winds to cross the seas more quickly. So, if they wanted to reach the western coast of the subcontinent from East Africa or Arabia, they chose to sail with the southwest monsoon. And sturdy ships had to be built for these long journeys. New kingdoms along the coasts. The southern half of the subcontinent is marked by a long coastline, and with hills, plateaus, and river valleys. Amongst the river valleys, that of the Kaveri is the most fertile. Chiefs and kings who controlled the river valleys and the coasts became rich and powerful. Sangam poems mention the Movender. This is a Tamil word meaning 3 chiefs, used for the heads of 3 ruling families, the Cholas, Cheras, and Pandyas, see map 7, page 87, who became powerful in South India around 2300 years ago. Each of the 3 chiefs had 2 centers of power, one inland, and one on the coast. Of these 6 cities, 2 were very important, Puhar or Kavaripattinam, the port of the Cholas, and Madurai, the capital of the Pandyas. The chiefs did not collect regular taxes. Instead, they demanded and received gifts from the people. They also went on military expeditions and collected tribute from neighboring areas. They kept some of the wealth and distributed the rest amongst their supporters, including members of their family, soldiers, and poets. Many poets whose compositions are found in the Sangam collection compose poems in praise of chiefs who often. Chapter 7 to 8 in 81. The 22nd of April 2022 2 hours 36 minutes and 35 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. Rationalized 2023-24 82. Our PASTS I. Rewarded them with precious stones, gold, horses, elephants, chariots, and fine cloth. Around 200 years later, a dynasty known as the Satavahanas became powerful in western India, see map 7, page 87. The most important ruler of the Satavahanas was Gautamiputra Sri Satakarni. We know about him from an inscription composed on behalf of his mother, Gautami Balashri. He and other Satavahana rulers were known as lords of the Dakshinapatha, literally the route leading to the south, which was also used as a name for the entire southern region. He sent his army to the eastern, western and southern coasts. Why do you think he wanted to control the coasts? Silk route and the Kushanas. Some kings tried to control large portions of the route. This was because they could benefit from taxes, tributes and gifts that were brought by traders traveling along the route. In return, they often protected the traders who passed through their kingdoms from attacks by robbers. The best known of the rulers who controlled the Silk Route were the Kushanas, who ruled over Central Asia and Northwest India around 2000 years ago. Their two major centers of power were Peshawar and Mathura. Taxila was also included in their kingdom. During their rule, a branch of the Silk Route extended from Central Asia down to the seaports at the mouth of the river Indus, from where silk was shipped westwards to the Roman Empire. Chapter 7 to 8, End. 82. The 26th of May 2022. 10 hours 49 minutes and 49 seconds. Rationalized 2023-24. 83. Villages, towns and trade.